Alright, welcome to a Valentine's Day special of the Zombie Apocalypse Diaries. It's just a coincidence that I'm talking about the gay marriage issues here in the United States on Valentine's Day. I just happened to read a story that kind of set me off. So, here's what we're talking about today. This is real-life zombies. They're always real-life zombies, aren't they? Okay, so in the state of Kansas, I'm reading a story on The Guardian, and I would be posting this in comments on The Guardian, except for the fact that The Guardian censors. So The Guardian is not a viable source of news because they censor your comments. And the news, actually. They're very heavily biased. The Guardian does not provide fair news. They do not provide fair news coverage. They are not a service. They are a corporate entity designed for profit. Anyway, the only reason I read them is because there's just no other viable sources of news out there that I've been able to find yet. I'm still looking. I think I found one for a while, but forgot where it was. So, anyway, I'm reading this story, and the story is about House Bill 2453 in Kansas. And the gist of it is that any person or religious entity with sincerely held religious beliefs would be able, without fear of legal consequences, to refuse to, quote-unquote, provide any services, accommodations, advantages, facilities, goods, or privileges, provide counseling, adoption, foster care, and other social services, or provide employment or employment benefits related to the celebration of any marriage, domestic partnership, civil union, or similar arrangement. Now, this directly relates to an argument that was put forward in the Proposition 8 case and several other legal gay marriage cases since then. This argument states that this effort, along with gay marriage bans, is an effort to establish religion, because they are establishing religious doctrine, religious dogma, religious belief as law. And marriage is one. See, marriage is an institution that it has two parts. Now, this document, this amicus that was written for Proposition 8 that forwarded this argument was never really picked up and certainly not considered, but it is still a valid argument, as evidenced by the fact that it was also put forward in another completely separate federal case, and then again in the Proposition 8 case when it went to the Supreme Court. This document is document number 568 on the Perry v. Schwarzenegger case in California, Proposition 8 case. This document was written by me. So there's some real life in there. It has my real life address and phone number in it too, except that they're defunct. I don't live in Colfax, Washington anymore. I don't have a cell phone from, where the fuck that was back then, Sprint, or no, that was AT&T, I think is who I had back then. Yeah. So, yeah, zombie phones. So I'm going to read you two things. I'm going to read you my editorial that I wrote, which got me to write this amicus, and then I'm going to read you the amicus, which is this legal argument. Because this bill in Kansas is, in fact, establishing religion. Now, let's figure this out. So, first I'm going to read this editorial, and well, you can, is it posted somewhere? Yeah, it's posted as an attachment to the brief, to the document. I just downloaded my copy of, or my brief, so now it's just okay, it's just the document. Okay, so let me see. No, I'll just read the article, because the editorial, I'll read the editorial later, because that applies to gay marriage. This applies just to establishment of religion. Okay. Oh, wait. Is this, no, this is my motion to file. Oh, yeah, this is motion. Okay, so this is the motion for leave to file. That's document 568. Oh, major amicus. Oh, wait. I'm going to try searching for it again, because I can't seem to find my copy on my computer. Oh, here it is. Oh, yeah. Okay, so here's my amicus brief. Ah, there it is. Okay. Alright, so here is my motion, or my amicus brief for the Proposition 8 case in California. Michael Wolff is a private citizen and understood the matter before the court in the interest of justice. Michael Wolff is not a citizen of the state of California, though he was born and raised there. Michael Wolff has researched the matter and discovered a novel argument heretofore not presented to this court or to the public to Mr. Wolff's knowledge on the constitutionality of Proposition 8 under the amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. Mr. Wolff's interest, therefore, lies solely in justice and supporting the court in its review of the matter to ensure that the arguments herein, which he feels are of paramount import, are heard by this court to assure that this separate issue of constitutionality is not missed. That is the necessary argument to establish amicus status in a case. I have an interest in seeing that justice is put forward. Okay, so, summary of argument. Marriage is both a legal and religious institution. Lacking in the debate over whether to allow same-sex marriage is the distinction between the two institutions, which admittedly are blurred historically. But despite this blurring of distinction, marriage is a legal institution by marriage in the eyes of the law. Yet, it is a religious institution which the proponents of Proposition 8 presented to the voters of the state of California. And as a result of their campaign, voters in California unwittingly put into place a change in law which violates the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, the doctrine which separates the church from the state. And in this case, is supposed to separate the religious institution of marriage from the legal institution of marriage. Because the voters of the state of California believed that they were effecting change based on the religious institution of marriage, Proposition 8 is invalid as violating the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. So that's a summary. This is the actual argument. There you are. One only needs to look as far as the organizations behind the support of Proposition 8 and their advertising campaigns to discover the true nature of their perspective on marriage, that it is a religious institution. These organizations, despite of their charters from the IRS defining them as tax-exempt and otherwise, well, actually, we don't need to read the argument. The summary of the argument is there. You can go read the amicus brief itself. And I might read my editorial, I might not. I'm not sure. But plain and simple, the state of Kansas is violating the United States Constitution by establishing religion. How? How do you say? Well, they're saying that anybody of religious belief can deny anybody anything based on that religious belief. They're codifying this in law. So they're codifying discrimination based on religion. They're saying that if you believe something, you can deny people, you can deny services to people. They are establishing religion. How? Well, it costs money to provide services. If you don't want to provide those services, all you have to do is claim religion and align that religion with the state. If you align your religious belief with the state's beliefs, they have established religion. If they tell you you can do something based on your religious beliefs and codify that into law, they're establishing religion. So, Kansas, you're violating the U.S. Constitution. Republicans might want to go ahead and sit down and read the fucking Constitution. Just read it. Especially that first 10 amendments called the Bill of Rights. Yeah, that. Anyway. How's that for weird? Anyway, just decided to try and work with the light I have. Anyway, I was going to add this just in case I decide to put it in. So anyway, pardon the lighting. It's about the only way I can read this damn thing. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read my editorial that prompted the writing of the amicus brief. This was when I was really heavy into writing. The debate over same-sex marriage in the United States is not a healthy debate because one entire side of the debate bases their stance on a grossly incorrect assumption. That assumption is that marriage is a religious institution. Until those opposed to same-sex marriage purge the notion that they are debating a religious matter from their minds, we cannot have a fair debate on the subject in this nation. Yes, marriage is a religious institution, but not in the eyes of the law. They are two separate institutions. Anyone who gets legally married knows this. When getting married, two things happen. A ceremony is conducted, and legal paperwork is completed and the marriage registered. The manner in which my stepmother recently married is quite exemplary of this. She was legally married in November and participated in a religious ceremony the following February. If you will, she was first married in the eyes of the law, then, months later, she married in the eyes of God. Your God. Anyway, yes, this marriage is a religious institution, but not in the eyes of the law. Oh, wait. And this is where the same-sex marriage debate falls apart. Those in opposition to same-sex marriage do so almost certainly because they cannot separate the two institutions, the legal institution of marriage and the religious institution. The legal institution provides legal rights and responsibilities for the couple, and the religious institution provides moral rights and responsibilities. Proposition 8 campaign demonstrates quite clearly the debate was over moral issues, for it was the Mormon Church, a religious institution, which was the primary opposition to same-sex marriage. But the United States Constitution is quite clear on this matter. While it may seem that the U.S. law recognizes a religious institution, that cannot be the case. The First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law regarding the establishment of religion. This separation of church and state makes it quite clear that the institution recognized by the law is a legal institution. In the eyes of the law, the religious institution of marriage does not exist. Given this, there are two significant things that can now be understood about the debate on same-sex marriage. The first is that, barring legal recognition, same-sex couples lacking the ability to have a formalization of their love for and commitment to each other as recognized by a legal bond must seek to formalize their bond through religious ceremony. In other words, barring the legal institution of marriage, same-sex couples can only seek recognition of their bond through the religious institution of marriage. If the people of the United States cannot recognize their bond, then God will. This does happen far more often than most believe. This was written back in 2004-ish, I believe. If the people of the United States cannot recognize their bond, then God will. And this does happen far more often than most people would believe, as there are many churches that recognize same-sex marriages and perform ceremonies, and have for decades. I actually knew a lesbian couple that was married in the 70s, religious institution in California. Curiously, if same-sex marriage opponents are in fact thinking in terms of the religious institution of marriage, then their efforts to bar same-sex couples from seeking legal recognition of their bond to each other is driving them to seek recognition through religious ceremony, the exact opposite effect of what they want. You can't get married legally, you got to get married through a religious institution, and the religious institutions don't want gays getting married. But that's the only way they can if they make it illegal. The second thing this reveals is that because same-sex marriage opponents misconstrue the marriage as a religious institution, they are attempting to use the law to religiously discriminate, to prevent same-sex couples from seeking a religious recognition of their bond and love for each other. This is the basis for the current legal efforts to defeat the amendment to California's Constitution which Proposition 8 created. The plaintiffs who are seeking to invalidate the amendment in the U.S. Supreme Court are arguing that the amendment was written specifically with the intent to discriminate based on the 14th Amendment, which outlaws discrimination in state law. But their arguments only present half of the story. If they were to also argue that Proposition 8 is in violation of the First Amendment in that it seeks to prevent same-sex couples from marrying based on the religious institution, the matter would easily be resolved. Such an argument would require establishment of the fact that the proponents of Proposition 8 put the matter on the ballot and that it was voted for under the assumption that marriage, in its context, is a religious institution. Given the campaign's biggest backers, the language the proponents advertise, and I'd venture to guess this would be an easy argument to prove. The Supreme Court would then quite easily conclude that Proposition 8 was intended as an effort to establish religious doctrine, and thus is in violation of the First Amendment. The debate for same-sex marriage desperately needs an understanding by all that marriage, in the eyes of the law, is an institution which establishes a formal and legally recognized bond between two loving people who have decided to share their lives together. The debate needs to be conducted with the understanding that the religious institution of marriage is not the same as a legal institution. This does not mean changing the word or substituting another word for the legal institution. It simply means understanding that when it comes to the debate of laws regarding marriage, that the religious institution is wholly separate and not at all a part of the debate because America grants every individual the right to religious freedom. In that regard, the debate over religious institution of marriage, whether to grant it same-sex couples, should be constrained to the church. I will be bold and predict that if people can separate legal and religious institutions of marriage, and set about debating whether or not same-sex couples should have the same access to the legal institution of marriage, that people will in fact recognize the importance of allowing two loving adults, regardless of their difference in race, religion, or gender, the same access to rights, protections, and responsibilities of marriage in the eyes of the law as everyone else.